Hello there, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. So a lot of people in the comments have been asking me about my personal preference for strings, particularly gauges and whether I prefer nickel or phosphor. I'll talk about gauges in another video, so in this video we're going to discuss the differences between nickel strings and phosphorus strings. And there's a couple of things, but it does really come down to your personal preference, and I also find quite a lot it comes down to availability. So I have nickel on here at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll just play a bit of a tune for you and we can talk about the tone, and then I'll restring the banjo with phosphor and we can see what those sound like. So here we are, a little bit of the nickel. They're fine, like they play quite nicely, the tone's quite nice, it's generally quite bright. I find they hold their tuning quite well. The issue I generally have with them is when I want nickel strings, it's very difficult to get them as singles, so you have to buy them in packs, and not all stores pack the gauge of strings that I want, because I use custom gauges for my banjo, which I'll talk about again in another video, and I'll link that video in this one. So because of that, I have to get very specific strings when I'm buying nickel, whereas where I'm buying phosphor, I can just buy guitar strings and essentially I'll pretty much get the ones that I want. So the availability, they're not as available in nickel. As for tone, yeah, they're quite bright, they're quite nice. So if you like the tone, then that's great. The other big problem I find with these nickel strings is the 18. I use an 18 on the A string and it's plain. So what plain means is there's no, you can hear as I run my fingernail up the string, nothing. It's a plain wound string, the same as my high E. But if I run my string down the A or the D, you can hear it. And that's where the string is wound cylindry. It's like a cylinder that's wound around the internal part of the string. And it gives it kind of ridges. Generally, this is nicer to play. Nicer to play and has a slightly better tone. So, you know, having the 16, 17 or 18 in plain, it's not, most people don't like it. You like to have wound, and they're very, very difficult to find wound 18s for an A string. So yeah, that's a big part of the reason I don't like the nickel. So let's have a look at the phosphor strings. Okay, so carrying on from where we left off with our comparison video, I've just gone and restrung my banjo with phosphor bronze strings, and I've done a video for that, which I'll link in the top corner of the video here. So if you want to go and restring your banjo, there's a video for it now. Beautifully in tune. So obviously this is a little bit unfair because these strings are brand new and my nickel weren't, but you can still get an idea of what the difference in the tone is. So they're much, much warmer. It's a little bit more like playing an acoustic guitar than it is playing a banjo, which is lovely. I've also got that wound 18 on my A string. So I was having trouble with my tuning on the with the plain string. So it's much nicer to be back now. So They're nicer all round, in my opinion, but it really is personal preference at the end of the day. Also, these guitar strings, apart from the 18 there, which is a clarine string, the rest of them are from acoustic guitars. So it's much easier to find them. Like I can go into any guitar shop and get single guitar strings or a pack, and I'll get much closer to the gauges that I want. So the availability for these strings is much higher as well. Whether they last as long or not, well, it really depends on how much you're playing them and the environment that the banjo's in. So I'm not really going to comment too much on that. But yeah, personally, I prefer the Phosphor. It's personal preference at the end of the day, and also what's available to you. I used NICKLE for probably the first 5 or 6 years of being a banjo player, and I would always spend the time to buy the loop ends from the specific banjo store. You just don't need to. Just go into any music shop, get guitar strings, pick the gauges that you want, put them on your banjo, and away you go. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful for you. Like the video if you like the video. Please subscribe if you want to hear more tips for the banjo. Check out our other videos for tune tool tutorials, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much.